again and welcome back. I hope you all enjoyed your afternoon workshop. Before we bring on Bill Eddy, I would like to introduce you to Matt Havervold from Our Family Wizard, who is one of our diamond sponsors for this year's FMI. Matt?
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Bouvier, and thank you, Terry, and everybody at SCMA for putting on an excellent virtual conference. It's great to be here with you all today and to see so many familiar names and faces. My name is Matt Havervold. I've had the pleasure of meeting several of you at previous conferences and other events over the years. I'm here with Our Family Wizard today just to give a quick couple of minutes to provide an overview of our platform. So a lot of you I know have used Our Family Wizard in the past, recommended us to your clients, had clients come to you that were maybe already using Our Family Wizard. But for those of you who this is your first introduction to Our Family Wizard, the easiest way for me to summarize what we do is we are a communication platform that was created specifically for divorced and separated parents. It's a tool to provide structure and organization with the communication about the children when the parents are separated in different households. We've been around since 2001. The quote that I'm showing on the screen here is actually from back when Our Family Wizard first originated, all the way back when they did a pilot project with the family court in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And this is a quote here from the supervising judge that we worked with at the time, Judge James Swenson. And I like to point out his quote here because he's talking about when they did their pilot project, the metrics that they used were all about reducing litigation in the court. So providing tools to help the parents effectively communicate about their children and hopefully reducing a lot of the unnecessary conflicts that come up over scheduling issues, unreimbursed expenses, things that bring parents into court for what are really parenting issues as opposed to legal issues. And when they used the pilot project, when they first created it, it was the Our Family Wizard website back then. It was before the iPhone had even come out. Hard to imagine, I know, but the metrics that they used were specifically to reduce relitigation amongst the parents that were part of the pilot project. So the measurable that they used was reducing the number of instances with those parents coming into court for time modification requests or unreimbursed expenses. So for those of you that have litigated in the past or are still litigating, you might think of Our Family Wizard as a tool that's mainly for high conflict parents, which is certainly how Our Family Wizard, kind of got its start in the family law community. But I would really like to have you kind of reframe the way you think about it. And it's an excellent tool for parents that are trying to avoid conflict. It's a great preemptive tool to provide structure and to help maintain the work that's done through mediation and other alternative dispute resolution platforms to kind of keep everything intact and provide some structure so that sort of as the aftercare as they go forward with their parenting relationship, giving them tools to sort of help keep them from having to go back to litigation or back to court specifically. So this quote here from Judge James Swenson, I like to point out how he mentions, regular use of the program should reduce the need to come back to court, and even families not involved in court proceedings should benefit from Our Family Wizard. I'll give a very quick overview of the features. So the way it works with Our Family Wizard, it's a website and a mobile app. So parents would sign up for a 1-year subscription. The cost for Our Family Wizard is $99 a year per parent. We have a couple of different packages that can be added as a premium. The most expensive package we offer is $120 a year per parent, but $99 is our basic subscription, which has access to most of the features. We also have a fee waiver program, which I'll show you a little bit more about to show how we work with families that are struggling financially to reduce or eliminate that fee. But as far as the platform goes, it's a full suite of online tools for co-parenting needs. There's a shared calendar, there's messaging, there's an information bank. I'll kind of just go through some of the features one by one here. With the messaging on Our Family Wizard, parents can add attachments to their message. All messages are going to include read receipts, so parents will know when the other parent has received the information that was sent. So hopefully that will reduce a lot of unnecessary anxiety and question marks over, do they have the school permission slip that I sent? Do they know about this soccer practice being rescheduled? The other parent's always going to have the verification of when the other parent viewed their message for the first time. So there's no questions over whether or not they have the information. We also have this tool called Tone Meter on our message board, which is really like an emotional spell check is the easiest way for me to describe it. So as a parent is typing a message to the other parent, Tone Meter is looking for inflammatory language. And if it catches anything, these red bars are going to pop up to sort of bring the message to the parent's attention to say like, hey, this is a little bit heated. Are you sure you want to say this as is, or do you want to take a second to maybe reword the phrasing of your message before you click the send button? It's going to catch your obvious things, your swearing, your name calling, that kind of blatant language, which is very intentional in nature. But I like the examples on the screen here because they're very passive aggressive. A parent that's saying don't be late as usual, maybe they're not trying to start a fight, but that might be, given the context of the situation, that might be all that it takes to sort of set them down a negative path and into conflict. So just having that extra moment to sort of pause, think twice before you hit the send button, especially in today's day and age when everything's so instant. You could be at the grocery store and then get a message from the other parent about, maybe not being able to be on time for something that was scheduled. And rather than, having the time to think and process the information before responding it, you can respond right there next to the produce in the grocery store. So tone meter sort of that, hey, are you sure you want to send this? Maybe take a second to cool off and think twice. From here, there's a shared calendar, so parents can put their parenting schedule on the calendar. Different events and appointments can be viewed. There's a tool for trading days. So for making temporary changes to their parenting schedule, there's a form that can be submitted for the other party to review and approve or not approve. Approving the trade request will automatically update the parenting schedule, and it'll result in an agreement that'll be on file within the Our Family Wizard account. We've got a section called Moments on our journal feature where parents can share photos, information about the children, positive interactions about their parenting with the children. There's a check-in feature for those cases where accountability may be an issue, where parents are late or not showing up for scheduled pickups, drop-offs, or events. It's a tool that can sort of hold that parent accountable and document and verify that they're on time for the things that they're supposed to be. Information bank, there's different templates here for uploading insurance cards, medical information, different records that both parents would need access to about the children. There's also an expense register. So for shared expenses based on what was in their agreements, either formally or verbally, if they're going to be splitting medical expenses or school expenses, the parents can post receipts to the Our Family Wizard account and then request reimbursement from each other. It's a great way to stay organized and on the same page with the expenses for the children. If anyone's interested, I'd be happy to provide a sample mediation agreement. It can be really helpful to make Our Family Wizard part of the parenting plan for the parents to communicate about their children. Just send me an email. My email is matt@ourfamilywizard.com, and I'd be happy to forward that along to you. I mentioned our fee waiver at the beginning there. So essentially, if you're doing any pro bono work or working on a sliding scale, for those families that you work with, we will completely waive the Our Family Wizard fee, and our services will be offered completely free of charge. This stat here of 13,000 families that had their fees waived between 2018 and 2020, I just learned earlier this week that out of that number, 8,000 of those fee waivers were from 2020 specifically. So we did a lot to really work with families that were impacted because of the pandemic. And then this is my contact information here, Matt, M-A-T-T, at ourfamilywizard.com. If you have any questions or would like some additional information, please don't hesitate to reach out. Thanks, and enjoy Bill's speech. I'm really looking forward to the presentation.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Matt, and thank you to Our Family Wizard for supporting FMI and for supporting SCMA. I would now like to introduce our closing plenary host, Dr. Deborah Dupree.
Thank you so much, Bouvier, for the introduction, and I'm absolutely delighted to be back here again today to introduce somebody I've known for a long time and who has been tremendously influential to me in my work over the years, not only professionally, but as Bill knows, personally. So a testament to that. Bill has just been an inspiration. He's a mediator, of course, a certified family law specialist, an LCSW, so we share that psychology counseling kind of background. And he's been at divorce mediation for 40 years. Incredible. And I think I really got to know Bill maybe even before this, but during his 15 years as a senior family mediator for the National Conflict Resolution Center, which is where I trained way back in 1993 when it was called the San Diego Mediation Center. And so so our paths have crossed a lot over the years. And it's been just a delight to see Bill evolve and to develop his High Conflict Institute, which he is the co-founder of, and the Chief Innovation Officer. And we certainly keep seeing lots of innovation come out of Bill and the High Conflict Institute. He has trained lawyers, mediators, judges, mental health professionals, and others managing high conflict in over 30 states and in 10 different countries. So he has been influential throughout the world, and I am confident he will continue to do so. I particularly got to know Bill well because as he developed his program, New Ways for Families, skill training for high conflict divorce, I think I was one of the first participants in his training at the University of San Diego, right here in San Diego. And so between Bill and a few others, and certainly our family wizard too, been very influential in terms of how I approach families in conflict and the strategies I use. Bill has also developed what we call new ways for mediation in order to help train professionals in how to deal with high conflict, because high conflict is high conflict and a whole set of parameters and nuances and behaviors to deal with that many of us aren't equipped to do. What I've admired so much about Bill, because we've sort of been traveling similar paths for a while, but he has found the time, in spite of his extensive training and travels, to write and write prolifically. He's authored over 20 books and manuals. I still refer to my New Ways for Families book from a long time ago when I faced certain situations. And probably one of the most instrumental of late is his newly co-authored book, BIF, Brief, Informative, Fair, and Firm. I think I got that right. I use it all the time. As you said yesterday, it's become a noun and an, there we go. Yeah, it's become a noun and a verb. There we go, BIF. Yep. And so this is for co-parent communication. So this is an excellent, complement to our family wizard. And it really is about how to deal with those difficult co-parent texts, emails, and social media posts. Again, I know that I have developed strategies about how to communicate among those high parents in high conflict divorce. And so, oh, thank you, Susan. It's firm. Okay. I can't remember what I said now, but anyway, you say BIF and people know what you're talking about. And so Bill, just earlier this week, I was so excited because I had shared this with somebody in a high conflict divorce, and she's been doing all kinds of reading of yours, and she goes, this is helping me so much. So together we're working as a team, and you didn't even know it. Okay, and I'm very delighted, Bill, to have this honor and opportunity to introduce you, and take it away.
Thank you so much, Deborah. And I did check, and it was 12 years ago, you were in the first class we trained for New Ways for Families. We trained lawyers, counselors, mediators, and a couple judges. And so thank you for being my introducer. I also just wanted to briefly comment, our family wizard, I agree with what Matt's saying. They don't have to be a high conflict case, even though I refer my high conflict cases to them. It basically gives people structure. And when people are going through a stressful time, you need more structure. Even COVID is a stressful time, you need more structure. So I wanted to emphasize that for everybody. Okay, I'm going to start up my PowerPoint and get this show on the road from the beginning. Come on, from the beginning. Okay, there we go. All right, so as a quick preview. So what I want to talk about is skills. I want to make a sales pitch for skills. And I want to explain why this is. There's many reasons that teaching parents skills will help them and help you and help the mediation process. I'm going to just focus on 4 skills today out of about 50 skills that we teach with High Conflict Institute. And why are skills so important? It's just kind of a paradigm shift. So I've got 7 reasons I came up with over the last hour. So you don't have this slide. But I realized, first of all, with COVID, that people are feeling powerless, helpless, unstructured, and that skills gives them something to work on and feel more empowered to solve problems. Also, the people we're seeing today, especially high conflict people, but anybody under stress, often need skills more than they need decisions. And we've always thought of mediation as about decisions. And if we broaden our thinking, in many ways, The mediation is a chance for people to learn that they can actually solve more of their own problems than they realize. And I think starting today with John Fisk, that we're talking about, some people can experience and structure that mediation can help them with. Also, we've learned, I worked in drug and alcohol treatment for 6 years. And what we've learned is you can't just take away a behavior and just say, look, stop drinking and just say no. You have to give a new behavior that replaces it. And so with people who are upset, we tell them stop blaming, stop interrupting, stop doing this, stop talking about the old days, and instead give them new things to do. So when they're saying, well, he never picked up the kids at 3 after school for karate, you can just say, then what's your proposal? And use your proposal skill. So anyway, this is an argument for skills. Having both of them learn the skills that I'm going to teach today, and I'm just teaching 4 of them, but they're all skills for a win-win culture. And this is so important because parents and a lot of people today have win-lose skills. And we want win-win skills. And if they're both working on win-win skills, they're going to be more effective and make your life a little easier. They also need skills to implement their decisions, how to communicate, how to text or email. And I guess email maybe is old hat, but a lot of people now just with text need to do their text messages like in the BIF format. Parents enjoy teaching their children these skills. And we've had about 300 parents learn the new ways skills through counseling, but we've had thousands learn it through our online program. And I'll show you at the end a survey from Orange County of all places, where they've ordered over 3,000 parents to learn new ways of doing things. And when you hear us talk about new ways, it means new skills. And last but not least, clients appreciate learning skills from their mediators. Now, how do you teach these skills? You can do this in pre-mediation coaching, which we encourage. We even have a manual for that. But also, if you're in a caucus, if you're on the phone, doing email is reinforce skills, and it gives people a positive sense. So let's go to the 4 skills for today. And this is the first time I've taught it this way, although one of them I've taught before to some of the people here, maybe others. But these 4 skills, encouraging statements, giving yourself an encouraging statement really helps during stressful times. Teaching them to make their agenda. For 30 years, I made the agenda. And the last 10 years in mediation, I learned to guide them to make the agenda. And I'll tell you how. Making proposals. Many of you have probably, if you've ever been at a training of mine, you heard about this. So it's so central, I'm going to teach it again, but just for a few minutes. And last but not least is the BIF communications. And now we have this new BIF book out, and it's just a couple months old. So I'm going to walk through that a little bit. So first of all, let's start with encouraging statements. Encouraging statements help people cope with stress. And so people don't realize the way you feel can be influenced by your self-talk, what you tell yourself. And so any stressful situation, if you have an encouraging statement that you tell yourself, it will help you get through. Now, it helps in stressful mediation. So where I got into this was I had a post-divorce mediation between former wife, former husband, and former husband's new wife. And it was about modifying child support and spousal support. Former wife had a new job and her income changed. And so the former husband says, can my new wife come? And I said, well, it's up to the 2 parties. So let's find out from the former wife. Former wife, I checked with her and she said, I'm okay with that if you give me some tips on how to cope with the stress of it being 2 against 1. And so we talked about encouraging statements. She came up with one for herself. And after we did the mediation, which went quite well, she said that was so helpful. And so we started telling people in advance, think of an encouraging statement to tell yourself. So this could be, my favorite, of course, is when people call me nasty things, it's not about me, it's more about their lack of skills and they don't know how to manage themselves. So it's not about me. As a mediator, I tell myself all the time, I'm not responsible for their outcome. And so that's an encouraging statement for me. But encouraging statement for parents can be things like, I can cope. I've gotten through hard times before, things like that. This helps them cope with conversations with their ex, helps them cope with upset discussions with their children. Their children are upset with them. Mommy, daddy says it's your fault we're getting divorced. And so rather than go into an argument about why we're getting divorced, is to be able to say things like, it's okay, kids, we're going to get through this, and you don't have to worry about that. So encouraging statements should be clear of comparison. So you don't say, I'm better than the other parent, I do this better, I'm better at math than the other parent. That's not a good encouraging statement. Just a pure statement, I'm good at math and can help the kids. Statements like that. Now, encouraging statements are important because managing one's stress is the second most important parenting skill that was identified in a major study that came out about 10 years ago, looking at all kinds of parenting skills. And they came up with the top 3. The first was unconditional love and affection for your child. And that's kind of obvious. But the second was managing your own stress. Now, why would that be so important? Well, if you can manage your own stress, you're demonstrating for your kids that they can deal with stress, and you have emotional energy available for your kids. So this is so important, and you can tell them that. The third, people wonder what it was demonstrating healthy adult relationship, communication and negotiation skills in front of the child. And this can be with your co-parent, which is ideal. If that's not possible because they're high conflict or something, then this can be with other adults. You want your child to see demonstrating healthy adult relationship communication. Now, what I want to do is see if my skills here will work to show you a, let me quick get this here. I'm going to show you a little video clip and see how my screen share skills work. So I'm optimizing for video clip and sound. And let's see this demonstration of someone getting learning about encouraging statements. This is from our New Ways for Families, a counseling session in that method.
My husband is such a jerk. If he really wants to go through this divorce, then I want nothing to do with him. The kids are better off without him. All he does is just bully them around. I never expected this to happen. I thought we were a happy family. I was so blindsided when he wanted a divorce. I don't know what to do. I feel so overwhelmed.
Oh, Sarah, I know this can be a hard time. It's emotionally exhausting. In fact, emotions are what we're going to focus on today. Did you get a chance to look at the workbook about today's session?
Oh, no, I haven't even given a thought to the workbook. I can hardly think of the hour ahead, much less the workbook.
That's really okay. Remember, you don't have to do anything outside of these counseling sessions unless you want to. We can do all of the workbook exercises during our sessions. There's plenty of time. These exercises are designed to be helpful, especially during these stressful times. There are a lot of ideas here for how to deal with calming your upset emotions. Do you want to begin with taking a break, talking to someone neutral, or telling yourself encouraging statements?
Encouraging? My life is falling apart. How can I be encouraging to myself?
Well, actually, you can. Or you can talk to someone neutral. What's helped you in the past when you've been upset?
Well, my mom died when I was 14. My dad took me by the shoulders and looked me square in the eyes and said, "We will survive." Believe me, that's a thought I have hung on to through the years. I've been through an awful lot. I am a survivor. Let me tell you about some of the abuse that I've experienced.
Not now, but later if you want to. Since we only have these 6 sessions and the focus is on the skills in the parent handbook, if we want to talk about past abuse experiences, we should do it after our 6 sessions are over and you've completed your workbook. There's nothing stopping us from continuing to work together in the future if you want to. Right now, though, let's look at what you can write in your workbook, such as, "You're a survivor," and other phrases you can tell yourself when you're upset. You can refer to these notes later, which can help you during these stressful moments. It sounds to me that you're good at telling yourself encouraging statements and getting through difficult times.
I guess you're right. I have gotten through some pretty difficult times.
Good. Then let's make sure to write that down.
Okay, so that's just an example of how you can help someone develop an encouraging statement. Make sure they write it down because that will help their brain remember it and help them. They can remind themselves every day. It's really something that's not that hard to do. All of these skills are designed to be simple. And so if you're under stress, you need things to be simple. So that's encouraging statements. Now, I might add, I'm not teaching you this today. I'm not teaching you mediator skills today, but I'll just mention that for mediators, that using what we call ear statements can be helpful, where you give someone empathy, you give someone attention, you give someone respect. And we saw the counselor in that case, Sherry Delisle, really doing a good job of that. Her whole body language communicated empathy, attention, and respect. So now let's go to the second skill of today. And that is one that just seems to me so important. And I couldn't believe 30 years of doing this myself, that I should help the clients do this and that they can, and that having the clients stay busy making their own agenda will help them from coming into a mediation session saying, "Now, Bill, you know what she did yesterday? You won't believe what she did." And my first thing will be, okay, this is our second session. As I mentioned before, you're going to be coming up with the agenda. So let me hear each of your list of proposed agenda items. So who wants to go first? And it just totally shifts away from, you know what she did, you know what he did, and all of those complaints. So teach the clients. First of all, it puts responsibility on their shoulders. And if you're dealing with high conflict cases, you need to do this even more so because they're going to try to put everything on your shoulders and then blame you for it. I don't know if anyone's ever noticed that. If they say, "Bill, fix it for us," and I'll say, "Okay, well, why don't you do this?" "Oh, that's a dumb idea, Bill." So instead, guide them to be coming up with ideas, guide them to come up with their agenda. And they get better at this with each meeting. And I should say the mediations that I've done typically are 3 or 4 sessions, 2-hour sessions. And so we have a chance to practice some of these things just in the context of the mediation itself. And so the next session, come in with your proposed list. So who wants to go first? And that's another thing I might add here. Having the parents make these little decisions, or the clients, even who goes first, is a good joint decision for them. the more that they feel the responsibility of making the decisions, the more they're likely to use their rational skills rather than their reactivity. And so what I'm teaching today was designed for high conflict people, but works for everybody. So it's on their shoulders. Have them bring in a list and then ask and be ready to write down who wants to go first. Okay, so sale of the house. Okay, you write it down. Change in child support, because those numbers don't work, Bill. Oh, okay, so we'll write down child support. Next item. And so you don't let them argue and discuss yet. You help them get good at narrow focus building an agenda. And one of the things that I teach a lot now is keep the conflict small. So right now we're just building the agenda. So I don't need to hear the argument for it. I've written it down. Child support's an issue. And then taxes. Taxes are coming up. Okay, I'll write that down. And then anything else? Okay, good. Now the other person, tell me your proposed agenda items, and I write them down. And so they're used to thinking in a more organized way. Now, and this doesn't have to take long at all. This could be like 30 seconds, 45 seconds. Now you've both heard each other's agenda. What do you want to have first on the agenda? And let me suggest that you don't pick the hardest, biggest issue. What we've learned as mediators is it's good to start small and build momentum. So I encourage you to think of something that's probably a pretty quick and easy decision. That may be a good place to start, but it's up to you. And so they'll say, oh, well, you know, who gets the house depends on who's, you know, got primary physical custody. So we really need to figure out that big issue. And I'll say, okay. And they say, yeah, that's the biggest issue. We have to decide that before anything else. And I'll say, okay, since it's so big, if it tends to overwhelm us, and we've only got 2 hours today, then how long do you want to spend on that? And if we don't have a decision, we can put on the back burner and work on some other things and then come back to it. Well, Bill, that we should spend at least an hour on that because that's the biggest issue. Or it could be the house or spousal support, something's the biggest issue. Say, okay, it's up to you. And that's now become one of my favorite phrases is it's up to you. That way it's not on my shoulders, can't blame me because you decided it. I don't say that, I'm just telling you that as mediators. So they pick an issue and they start picking, and we work out an agenda. And I say, this looks longer than 2 hours. There may be some things, do you want to just wait and see, or we'll take them off now? And they'll decide that. So this way, they have already made like five joint decisions. Who went first, what the agenda items were, what the order is going to be. So they're already engaged in joint decision making. Now, guess what? If you've ever had a high conflict case, surprise, surprise, they don't stick with their agenda. High conflict people like to make the conflict as large as possible. Well, then if this, then this, and then there's this catastrophe that follows. And so they get off and running into another subject. So as the mediator, because you're in charge of the process, you can say, hey, folks, you're starting to talk about this now. We were on this other subject. Do you want to change the agenda? Which is it going to be now? Which one? It's up to you two. Let me just say the benefit of this with high conflict people is when the mediator makes the agenda and then they want to go off the agenda, they're in a tug of war with the mediator. And I don't know how many people have ever experienced that. But when I'm teaching people live, usually everybody raises their hand. So this is a way to avoid you being in the power struggle with them. Instead, you assist them in deciding what to do. So what I want to do is give you a little video clip here of changing the agenda in the middle of a mediation. And in this case, the parties were on child support and spousal support. And because the wife makes more than the husband, she's going to be paying him spousal support, but because she has more time, he's going to be paying her child support. And it comes out to not a real big difference. And suddenly we're off and running on a whole new issue. Now, before I show you this, let me explain part of the approach in what I call new ways for mediation is educating them about options. And so you'll see me talking about that. But I don't take responsibility for which topic or their solution. So let me stop this share and go here and go here. This is always the fun part. I'm pretty good at this, but it still takes me a moment. There we go. Da, 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 da. Okay. So now we come back here. And now I click screen share. And now we have a new video with new people. And again, as I said, they're in the middle of the mediation. They picked to talk about child and spousal support. And I want to mention changing the agenda can be very simple and easy. You don't have to belabor it, take a vote or formal decision, as you'll see here.
I propose we just cancel both of those out, like, because I am not paying Skip $160 a month. I mean, that's basically like beer money for him. I'm not. You know, we've talked about this, and I talked to Bill about it in our private meeting and stuff. So let's not act like it's not a big deal. But I just
what
that you drink. What that you drink. And I know you're like, you always just like, oh, it's just beer. It's just beer. But it's like, that's a problem. And if I'm supposed to be trusting the kids with you, I'm going to give you $160 a month. That's basically your beer expenses. I'm not paying for that. So why don't we just cancel out child support? He owes me no child support. I owe him no spousal support.
No.
Okay.
I understand that's a proposal. I understand, Bill, that's a proposal. Right now, I'm going to offer
There's two issues going on, because if you're saying beer is an issue, then that's an issue we should talk about. If you're making a proposal about support, then that's something we should talk about. So which do you want to talk about first?
Beer is an issue.
Beer is not an issue.
Okay.
I mean, that's my counter proposal.
Well, let me. Okay, that's one way to approach it. That's one way to approach it. Let me tell you what the standard approach, if there's a question about a drinking or drug issue.
Okay.
And that is a couple things. One is, first of all, it doesn't have much to do with child support, but has a lot to do with the parenting part. If you are concerned that his parenting is impaired because of beer,
Yes.
then the most common way that's addressed is to have an assessment done and see if that's really a problem by somebody else. So it's not just you two arguing and me just guessing, because I have no idea.
Absolutely think that that's appropriate.
So an assessment would be with a neutral expert who could say to you, Skip, if you did that, you would meet with them and they'd go over however they do their assessment, and they would say, it looks like Skip has a beer problem, or Skip doesn't have a beer problem, or he's an alcoholic, or he's not an alcoholic. So that kind of thing takes it out of the two of you. The other thing is, what a lot of people discuss is making an agreement about parenting plan, is that you won't use alcohol or illegal substances while you're parenting the children.
Which should be a given anyway, yes.
Exactly.
Oh, exactly.
That can be
Like the time you
included
left him at the
if
beach.
that's a concern and if you both agree. But let me give you a chance
I didn't leave him
to
at the
share your thoughts on this subject, Skip.
You know what I'll do is I'll nip it right in the bud. You line up an assessment, I'll blow into a breathalyzer or whatever the hell they do. Go ahead. whatever that independent person is.
Okay, so you're saying you would agree to do an
Yes,
assessment?
I will agree to do an
Thank you.
assessment.
Thank you.
Now,
I'm not doing it for
usually,
you, I'm doing it for the kids, okay?
I'm saying thank you. I can't say
okay,
thank you.
just let it be
No,
an
I don't wanna
agreement. Like, we don't need to argue if you have an agreement.
Okay. So let me get that out of the way here. And then I'm going to get our next video clip ready, and then I'll start talking about it. Okay, so I want to talk about briefly. I'll just talk about it, but so I'm going to flip back to my PowerPoint and can show you this next one. So the next skill is making proposals. And I've been talking about this a lot for the last few years. I'll mention I have a little book, So What's Your Proposal? The idea here is it's just astonishingly simple, but it's a way to shift from an argument and blame and talking about the past to them thinking of a proposal to solve an issue. And the idea with proposals is you're really, I think, shifting them out of, if you talk about the brain, I have this little extra brain with me, that if the brain, and some researchers support this, some others are so-so, but I like the ones that support this idea. And that is that the brain has the left hemisphere where we have problem solving, language, thinking ahead, looking at details, things like that. And then the right brain seems to be where we have more of our reactions and reactivity. It's defensive and protective as well as creative, has got thoughts and feelings, decisions, all kinds of good things, but this seems to be where the more protective parts are. And so when someone's real upset, their thinking, their logical thinking may be offline and their reactivity may be going in their right brain. And so we want to get them, we calm them with ear statements, give them empathy, attention, and respect, and then get them thinking of proposals. What should we do? And when they're thinking, that's left brain stuff. And when I do this in role play and mediation trainings, people sometimes say, I can almost feel my brain shifting gears. So let me show you this quick one of making proposals. And the way to do this is 3 steps. One makes a proposal, the other asks questions about it, not reacting, defending, but just asking who, what, where, and when questions. And then they say yes, no, or I'll think about it. So here we go. So these are the 3 steps.
At this point, just for moving on and for the, what's best for the kids is, I think he's actually right. I'm fine.
So this is a yes, no, or I'll think about it. Are you saying yes?
It's a yes. I would like us to be able to be flexible. Like, if there's a day where he can't pick them up, I need to know that before 2 o'clock. Like, I would need to know that that's an issue or something. And the same goes for me.
Okay.
All right? The same goes for me. If I couldn't be home by 6 or there's something, I would let him know. I would not, of course I would let him know.
Okay.
So I'm saying yes, and I think if we could just be flexible about like holidays and stuff, I'd prefer to just deal with that when it comes up.
Yeah.
I want to set schedule. I want to set, and we can, let's just set the schedule. Forgive me.
So are you making a proposal?
I'm making a proposal.
Okay, good.
Is that I think that we should set the schedule because then we know what we're deviating from, and then we know what is expected so that we can anticipate things, and if things change, they will, then we'll deal with that. But I don't want to leave it just wide open.
I know, but you'll just use it against me. You'll be
What do
like,
you mean
"Oh,
I'll use it
remember when
against
I
you?
said
Why
what?"
what is that about?
Wait.
What would I use against you?
hang on.
I'm hanging on.
No, but I gotta have, Dawn, is if you could
Yes.
say, yes, I agree with that, no, I don't agree with that, or let me think about it.
Can I think about that, please?
Okay. So for now, that's something you can think about.
I'm okay with the basic schedule, the holiday thing. Please just let me have some time,
Okay.
please.
Excellent. Okay.
That was an option that I could say.
Hang on.
understand that.
I think you're already there. You're thinking about it. And so with proposals, you really focus on, yes, I can do that, in which case I'll write it up. No, I don't agree, or I'll think about it.
Okay.
So you have time to think, because you're going to have 2 or 3 sessions after this, and we'll be able to follow up with your thinking, because you want a good plan. And one of the things the research shows is there's no best plan for parenting schedules, that what's the best plan is what both parents can agree to.
All right.
Because then the kids aren't caught in the middle and don't feel a sense of tension.
The other thing we're going to have to think about, I'm sorry to interrupt you. but
If
the
it's a
other thing-
proposal or a question?
Well, it's a legitimate question. Maybe it's a
Okay.
proposal. I don't know. I don't know what the hell it is. Excuse
Okay.
me, I'm sorry. But in the summer, that's what I can't figure out. That's what's going to be really
So
difficult.
the summer,
And
okay.
I don't know what to do about that. So I just wanted to.
Okay.
Well, if
And
you paid
summers-
attention, you know that they go to summer camp, and so we can do that same thing again. But you don't remember that? You don't
Is
remember?
this a question or a proposal?
No, he's saying I don't know what to do with the summer, and if he would stop for a second and think, we have them in summer camp,
How
and it's
long?
what
Try
we've
to-
done
try
in
to
the past.
phrase-
How long did they go to summer camp?
For
Try
the
to
summer.
phrase it
No, they don't.
as information rather than as a
right.
disagreement, because I think you're actually much closer than I expected for an agreement. So if there's some information to provide, is you can say, here's some information. If there's questions, is ask questions, and if you have a proposal, then make it as a
All right.
proposal.
My proposal is they continue with the summer camp that we've had them in the past.
And what time of day to
And-
when is that?
I think
like
it was
9 to
like
5
9
kind
to,
of thing?
no, it wasn't as late as 5. I feel like it was around 2 or 3.
Okay.
So he can keep this same thing that he's proposed, that we've agreed on. He can keep that. And if not, I mean, it's not as if we've never had a babysitter before. Like, we've got a couple reliable babysitters. Why can't we
Mm-hmm.
fill in that time? That's my proposal.
Okay. So do you understand her proposal? Any questions for
no.
her?
Not at all. Not at this point.
And what would your response be?
I'll need
Yes,
to-
no,
need
or
to
I'll think
I'll
about
need
it?
to think about that.
Think about it?
Yeah.
What is there to
Okay,
think
great.
about?
I
And
don't
that's-
know. I just need to think about it. That was
Okay,
my
no,
answer.
You're right, you're right. You're absolutely right. I gave that answer a
And
second
that's
ago. You're right.
important that you each have a
Okay.
chance to think about these.
All right,
Because what that does is it makes it turn into the best possible answer.
okay.
Okay, excellent. So it's slow, but you're actually piecing together a lot of parts of a parenting plan that may actually be compatible. Okay. Okay, so that's the idea with proposals. Now, you notice it focuses them like as if they're in a box. And the box is basically, you can do three things. You can make a proposal, ask questions about it, give answers, of course, to those questions, and then say yes, no, or I'll think about it. And what's amazing is to see clients absorb this and then start to use this. Like they'll go, well, you never, oh, wait, my proposal is, and you can kind of hear the gears shifting as they refocus on what to do. Now, I might mention that these are some of the skills we teach in our New Ways for Families counseling method, also online method, and that we have the 12-session online course that I'm going to show you a survey from Orange County where they've ordered like 2,000 or 3,000 parents. They say, the judges say, if the parents come back, their body language is different because they're learning how to take responsibility rather than just point fingers. And making proposals as a replacement activity for blame, for finger pointing, and for focusing on the past. So when you're talking about a proposal, you're not talking about the past. So let me go back to my slides now and undo the optimize and sound.
There we go. Go to current slide. Oh, it's working. So we've gone from that to their proposals. Now, what's important is that the person who says no to a proposal needs to make a new proposal then. So you don't want it where you have one person making all the proposals and the other person rejecting them. You want both of them engaged in making proposals. Now, what's important here is you can really get them thinking of proposals before they come to mediation. And so I trained a group in Australia where I was teaching them new ways for mediation and new ways for families. And they said, we have 1 hour. They were a public program. They have 1 hour to help parents develop a parenting plan. And I've spent sometimes, 6, 8 sessions on that. And they have 1 hour. And they said, how can we do this? And I said, tell them ahead of time to think of what's on their agenda and what their proposals are going to be. So when they walk in and sit down with you, you can start with their agenda and then their proposals. Now, some people might say, well, Bill, what about identifying their interests, getting some background, understanding the big picture? And what we've learned with high conflict people is that they can't do that without arguing and then digging in their heels. So if they come in with proposals, we talk about their proposals. Our focus is on the future, our focus is on what to do, and they then analyze the proposals. So the questions are very important. That's the key part of why this works, because they have to think of questions instead of reacting. And so what they do is they start with proposals, and then we ask questions. And if they can't reach agreements, then as the mediator, you can say, well, what I'm hearing is this is what seems real important to Dawn, and this is what seems real important to Skip. Am I right on that? And I say, yeah, and you write that on a whiteboard, or you write it in your notepad. And actually with Zoom, you can do whiteboard functions if you want to try that. But the idea is they are always thinking. You're keeping them thinking. And this is kind of like a treasure hunt for the solution. And so they ask questions, you ask questions. And what have you done? You've identified their interests. And so you can say, oh, well, here are some possibilities. And you might give them 3 possibilities other people did. And then now it's back on their shoulders. What do you see here? Is there a new proposal that might bridge what's important to each of you? So making proposals is at the core of high conflict mediation. And frankly, I do this with a lot of mediations. So they don't have to be high conflict, or I may not know. And it's efficient. They reach agreement, we move on. They don't, we can dissect it. If they're reasonable people, we can really talk more about the past. We can try for insight. But if they're high conflict, you just stay narrow focused here. You can get a full agreement. It may take twice as long as a normal case, but you can make progress. And then this leads us to the last skill, which isn't really a mediation process skill. So that's why I named this teaching new skills for parents in and out of mediation. So this is the communication and writing method. This can be done with text, this can be done with emails. And as someone mentioned today, they remember when they used to send letters. And so for those of us who occasionally still send a letter, this is a method that works with that. You can also use this in a conversation verbally. So the idea here is that BIF responses are brief. They don't have to be very long, typically 1 paragraph. I like to say, typically 3 to 5 sentences is a good for a BIF response. even if you're responding to 2 or 3 pages of information. Informative, it's just straight information. No arguments, opinions, emotions, defending yourself. You don't have to. In fact, defending yourself escalates conflict. So focus on information. Again, that's like pulling from this right brain defensiveness over to left brain problem solving. I picture it that way, and I think that often helps me. Then that it's friendly, it's got a friendly tone, that it's like, thanks for responding, or if it's Friday afternoon, have a good weekend, something that puts a positive tone on it. And last, that it's firm, and this doesn't mean harsh. What it means is you end the hostile conversation, that you don't feed it, you don't put any hooks out there, like, what do you think of that, buddy? Don't do that. That tends to invite a new escalation. So instead, you just want it to end things. Now, sometimes you may have a question and need a yes or no answer. Well, you can turn it into a yes or no question and then give a deadline, like, let me know by Thursday at 5, something like that. So I've done in writing, because this part's in writing. I'm not going to give you a video clip on this. What I want to show you is a sample email, and I'm going to read it so you get the feeling of the tone. Jane, I can't believe you're so stupid as to think I'm going to let you take the children to your boss's birthday party during my parenting time. Have you no memory of the last 6 conflicts we've had about my parenting time? Or are you having an affair with him? I always knew you would do anything to get ahead. In fact, I remember coming to your office party, witnessing you making a total fool of yourself, including flirting with everyone from the CEO down to the mailroom kid. Are you high on something? Haven't you gotten your finances together enough to support yourself yet without flinging yourself at every Tom, Dick, and Harry, and on and on and on? So let's see how Jane responds to that. Joe, thank you for responding to my request to take the children to my office party. Just for your information, the party will be from 3 to 5 on Friday at the office, and there'll be approximately 30 people there, including several other parents bringing school-age children. There'll be no alcohol, as it's a family-oriented firm, and there'll be family-oriented activities. I think it will be a good experience for them to see me at my workplace. Since you do not agree, then of course I will respect that and withdraw my request, as I recognize it is your parenting time. And that's it. So let me ask you, do you think that that was brief? Yeah. Do you think that was informative? Straight information, no battle about it. Yeah, the time, place, that's all left brain kind of thinking and questions. Do you think that that was friendly? Sufficiently. Thank you for responding. I recognize it's your parenting time. And do you think that that was firm? Did it end the hostile conversation? Yeah. Now, she could have said at the end, with this information, I hope you'll reconsider. Please let me know yes or no by Thursday at 5. And so she could turn it into a question, and that would still be a BIF response. So this is an example of a BIF response. But let's look at the possibility. Here we go. That's the second example I was just giving you. Let me know yes or no by Thursday at 5. This is very simple. And what's interesting when Matt was talking about the tone meter, BIF is what to do if you are getting into the orange and red zones on the tone meter. This gives you what to do. But we teach this to people so that they can do it for themselves. Now, what if Joe sent this to 20 of Jane's family and friends? Should she respond? We recommend that people do respond if it goes to a group, because if it goes to a group, somebody's going to believe it, even if it does look absurd. So here's an example of how she could do that. Dear friends and family, as you know, Joe and I had a difficult divorce. He has sent you a private email showing correspondence between us about a parenting schedule matter. I hope you will see this as a private matter and understand you do not need to respond or get involved in any way. Almost everything he has said is in anger and not at all accurate. If you have any questions for me personally, please feel free to contact me and I will clarify anything I can. I appreciate your friendship and support. And that's it. And I have to tell you, I was talking to somebody about a business situation earlier in the week where they had like a dozen people copied on something. And I gave them this example and they said, those are the kind of words I just couldn't think of. So is this a BIF response? Is it brief? Yeah. Is it informative? Well, it doesn't detail each thing he said and say, that's not true, that's not true, that's not true, that's not true. But you get the message from reading this to not give much weight to what Joe has said, to at least know Jane doesn't agree with him. Then, was it friendly? Yeah, I appreciate your friendship and support. And was it firm? Does it end the conversation? Yes. And when people send emails like this, they say, I never hear from anybody because people don't want to get involved in their high conflict divorces. So this is one way to do that. Now, somebody out there is going to say, well, I think there's a sentence in there that you don't really need. Almost everything he has said is in anger and not at all accurate. So here's how you coach somebody on this. You have the writer, the BIF writer, ask themselves that question, should I or shouldn't I have that? Have the writer read it out loud with that sentence, which I just did, and then have them read it out loud, taking that sentence out. So let's do that and see how it sounds. And then I'll take a poll and see which way you like, the first way or the second. Dear friends and family, as you know, Joe and I had a difficult divorce. Whoops. He has sent you a private email showing correspondence between us about a parenting schedule matter. I hope you will see this as a private matter and understand you do not need to respond or get involved in any way. If you have any questions for me personally, please feel free to contact me and I will clarify anything I can. I appreciate your friendship and support, and that's it. So let me take a poll. I think I can see everybody here if I tinker with this. I want to find out which you preferred. How many people liked the first version better? Could raise your hand, okay. And how many people like the second version better? Okay. Now keep in mind, there's no one right way to write a BIF response. So depending on who Joe is, who Jane is, what the situation is, maybe she needs to include that, or maybe not. Most people say without, but a few people say with it. And so it's situational. And that's what's so important here. So I want to show you a little bit more, and then I'm going to have about 10 minutes for questions. So let me talk about BIF coaching because I'm teaching you skills so you can teach your clients. And I should mention that the BIF coaching method is in that new book, BIF for Co-Parent Communication. It's also in our first book, which is simply BIF. So you ask the client these questions, have them bring something they've drafted and ask them. And this would be in a separate session. Although you could tell them about this in a joint session. Is it brief? And they'll say, yeah, I think so. Is it informative? I think so. Is it friendly? Yeah. Is it firm? I think so. Okay, good. Does it contain any advice? Well, maybe, I don't know. Any admonishments? Maybe, I don't know. Okay, hold those thoughts. We'll get to that in a minute. Now, does it contain any apologies? Now, this is counterintuitive. We know in mediation that apologies often resolve a lot of disputes. They open the door to working together. They may settle a whole dispute. Well, in a BIF response to somebody who's angry or a high conflict person, it's better if you don't include an apology. And the reason why is high conflict people have a lot of all or nothing thinking. And so when you give them this thing in writing and you say like, I'm sorry, I was 5 minutes late. And they go, see, she admits it's all her fault. She's sorry. Remember when you wrote this? And I once had a mediation and a guy pulled out a raggedy note that said, and you could tell it was from the other party, I'm sorry, I'm not more organized. I'm sorry, I don't do this better. I'm sorry, I don't do that better. And what you realize is that person is trying to calm down a high conflict partner. And instead, the partner is using it against them. So I say this to clients. I say, better to leave it out of your BIF responses because it may just come back as ammunition against you. Now, how do you think the other person will respond? We'll have them picture being in the other person's shoes. This is a good exercise for people who aren't high conflict and for people who are, because they have a harder time doing that. Is there anything now you would take out, add, or change? Now have them figure out what they think, like taking that sentence out of Jane's email. And question 10 is, would you like to hear my thoughts about it? Now, I want to tell you, this is very hard for lawyers to do because they want to do that at question 1. It's also hard for therapists who want to get into this, at least by question 3. They want to say, oh, you need to do this and don't do that. So if you're coaching somebody, really refrain from giving feedback until the end. But at that point, you can suggest anything, but end with, it's up to you. Otherwise, they send it out, it blows up, now it's all your fault. So you don't want to be in that position. So real quick, one last example. Maria to Carlos. Christy went to the dentist last week. He says she needs 2 fillings and should be evaluated for braces soon. You owe me your share for this appointment. While she is only 9, she may need braces early. They will cost about $2,000. Your portion that remains would be $1,500. She'll be having the fillings done in the evaluation in a few weeks. Carlos to Maria. How dare you take her to the dentist without telling me? Who did you even take her to? Why was I not told of her appointment and given the chance to go? I won't pay for anything, in all caps. And I'm taking you to court for ignoring my rights to be at her dentist appointment. You did this 2 years ago when she was taken in for vaccinations without telling me, and you should know better. Now, is that a BIF response? It's brief, but it's not straight information. It's cluttered with other stuff. High conflict, bold caps, all that. It's not really friendly and it's not firm. It's a throwing a challenge out there. So how should Maria respond if she has learned this method? Well, let's see. I did forget to tell you the dentist's name. It's Dr. Nelson at Pediatric Dental Care on Morton Road. The appointment was made so long ago, and I thought I told you about it, but I obviously forgot. I understand you will want to talk with Dr. Nelson about what he suggests for Christy. As I always handled the appointments for the children while we were together, I thought I should keep doing that, but it won't happen again. So is that a BIF? It's brief.
Almost.
It's straight information. It's friendly. Well, it doesn't include an introductory and ending, except, but it won't happen again. That's a little bit. She admits she forgot. And is it firm? Does it end the matter? And pretty much it gives him the information he needs. So I would say that's a BIF response, although it probably could be a little bit better. But it's up to the client. So I would say it's up to you. But I would say you might want to say something friendlier at the beginning, but it's up to them. So that's my presentation. This is the BIF book, your guide to co-parent text, emails, social media posts. And if you're interested, I wanted to quickly mention, I talked about our New Ways for Families method. There's 2 locations you can find out about it. High Conflict Institute, which is our training website. We've created Conflict Playbook as a new one for individuals, for parents, and the online classes at the Conflict Playbook website. So that's something you may want clients to check out. I did want to mention the Orange County survey. Here it is. I don't know if you can see all these numbers, and it's not in your handout, but the online program, the judge's order in Orange County, is called Parenting Without Conflict by New Ways for Families. And basically, let's look at the feedback we get. Did this class help improve your relationship with your co-parent? And yes, somewhat. So yes and somewhat are the biggest.
That's good.
Did this class help improve your relationship? So it's about 75%.
We know what that
And did this class help improve your relationship with your children? Yes and somewhat, I think, are around 90%. Anyway, so we've got really good feedback from that. And that is my presentation, and I've left 9 minutes, I think it is, for questions.
Thank you, Bill, because I'm sure there'll be a lot. First, let's just a round of applause because we may not have time after we start getting into questions. But Bill, would you do me a favor? We are going to be raffling off one of your books. Can you back up to the slide that has the books on them so that the people that win the raffle prize can tell us which book they would like? And then I'm going to start looking in the chat. If you can, don't worry about it, but we want people to have an option if they win the book.
Well, let me just say, I'll show this one. I don't have the other 2 there, but I'll hold them up. So that's Biff, and I'll just hold up the other 2. So
Okay.
here is, so what's your proposal, which really talks about the proposal method. And then this is high conflict people in legal disputes, which is really good for mediators, lawyers, judges, and counselors.
Yeah.
So those are the 2 books that I think people could particularly find helpful.
All right, so we have a few minutes for questions. Then we're going to turn it over for the raffle, which is if you are a friend, if you joined the Friends of FMI, we're going to select 3 of you to receive one of Bill Eddy's books of your choice. But boy, I'm not seeing very many questions here. Maybe we're tired this afternoon, but let me just take a scroll here. I noticed that there were some comments here about people feeling like sometimes they are both a teacher and a conflict resolver. And I thought that was kind of interesting. And that was early on in your presentation that, you know, so much of mediating with high conflict or other clients is you do have to educate them somewhat.
So I
I have a
see
question.
a few hands up also.
All right, good. So we're doing them live. So let me just a minute here and I'll, okay, hands up if you had a question.
Steve?
Okay. Oh, wait, there we are. How about Will? Will?
Yeah, hi, here's my question, Bill. Does it matter if each of the couples is high conflict or only one of them?
It doesn't matter at all. And I'm so glad you asked that, because it's important to know surveys I do at trainings. I ask judges, lawyers, mediators, therapists, how many couples they think are 2 high conflict people and how many think are 1. And it averages out around 50-50. And so all of the techniques I just taught are more easily learned by people who aren't high conflict, but even people who are high conflict seem capable of learning these. Most of them can. So by just treating them as equal with learning the skill, you avoid having to figure out who's who. You never have to know, but these will help. I think.
Okay, and Steve, you want to go ahead and ask your question?
Yeah, so I thought Joe was borderline abusive in his email to Jane. So my question was, if I were the mediator on that, and let's say Jane showed me that email, there's a BIF response, but let's say you want Joe to stop sending those types of emails consistently, and you don't want that to be a pattern that's accepted, because it's by giving such a gracious response, I'm wondering if that condones that type of an email, especially when it went over the top regarding, you know, the accusation of an affair and all these other things. So if those are my mediation clients, I would feel that maybe in addition to toning it down, not only should we tone it down, but maybe try to get the party who's that aggressive to just stop.
Yeah, so here's a good thing, and this is a good chance to do caucus work or individual work with them. And so what I would suggest is she shows you that probably separately, or maybe when they're together, I don't know. But you might say, let me talk a few minutes with each of you separately. And when you're talking to Joe, is tell him about BIF responses, because he's not even attempting to do that, may not know about them at all. And say, this can really make people listen to you better. Because often when people have defensiveness triggered, they don't really hear what you have to say. So you could coach and teach him that. The other thing that's fascinating, I've been getting feedback the last couple of years from lawyers telling me, you know, my client's been responding to the jerk, and look at what my client wrote and how good it is. And then they're saying, guess what? The jerk is starting to write back like a BIF format, even they don't know it's a format. And so I think that if you can educate both of them, if you can only educate one, that it still may have an influence on the other. The last thing I want to say is, you know, if your emails end up in court, which more often they do these days, you want to be the one that looks like Jane's, not the one that looks like Joe's. And by the way, I've had some judges that order parents to communicate using the BIF method. So
Wow.
that kind of helps get people on an equal playing field, I think.
Wow. Yeah,
I love it. Thank you.
That's quite a
Thank you.
recommendation, Bill. When judges like those responses and remind the clients of that. All right, so I'm going to turn it over. First of all, yay, thank you, Bill. It was wonderful. We just appreciate you so much, as you know. That's why you're our star award winner recipient. So I'm going to turn it over to Bouvier, who is going to raffle off one of your books. And so I think a lot of you might be familiar with them, but go ahead, Bouvier, and I don't know how you want to do that, so let us know. And then I have a few final words and we'll be done for the day.
Sure. So I will go ahead and announce the 3 raffle winners, and also just some last minute things that you all should know about the conference. And so the 3 winners are Lucia Johnson, Andy Shelby, and Marvin Whistler. So I will go ahead and email all of you to find out which one of Bill's books you would like, and we will send it over to your place. Before I turn it over to Terry to close us out, I just want to give a heads up that sometime next week, you will receive an email that includes all the recordings for all the plenary sessions and the workshops, the MCLE and MC3 certificate of attendance, and a link to the electronic activity evaluation form for California MCLE. Please note that the recordings will only be available for 2 weeks from the date that it is sent out. I'll also put a reminder on the email when I send that out. If you have any questions, please feel free to email us at info@scmediation.org. And now I will turn it over to Terry.
All right. So I do have some final words, and I think we're going to finish up just a few minutes early. So what I'm going to suggest is after I say my final words, that if you want to, make sure you go in the chat room maybe and catch up with somebody, or, you know, exchange some information. I know sometimes when I start seeing the meeting close and I didn't get a chat out, so we'll give you a few minutes. We'll have the the meeting open for just a few minutes when I'm done. So I guess my final words are thank you, thank you, thank you, presenters, sponsors, attendees, facilitators, planning committee, Bouvier, Taisha, and you know what? You got to say thank you to the SCMA for providing us this opportunity, the opportunity for family mediators and supporting professionals to be part of this online community. And I'm holding out that our 5th Family Mediation Institute is going to be back at the Westin South Coast Plaza. And, you know, so some of you, you better book your flights early, because those of you coming from as far as Australia, it'll be a little more difficult if we resume an in-person meeting. But I sure hope to see you all then. And I hope that you all found it as inspiring a day as I did. And please continue to explore new frontiers in family mediation. And don't be afraid to try new things. So again, thank you so much, all of you. And like I said, we're going to leave the chat room open for you. And with that, I'm going to say good afternoon or almost good night. And thanks again, everybody.